Okay, so today's lesson is going to be about multiplying fractions and dividing fractions. And today is the 18th. I always am writing crooked. Okay, so multiplying fractions. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. Here is example 1. I should have something like 8/7 times 7/10. So first thing you need to remember is the fact that we represent multiplication numerous ways. Touching means to multiply, a dot means to multiply, things in parentheses, and touching the parentheses means to multiply. All of those things are multiplication. So essentially, we have lots of ways we can do this. The most important thing is that we keep saying our answers in simplest form. So when we multiply fractions, we do numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. We have 3 ways to simplify. So the first way would be the greatest common factor. When we look at this, we are going to go ahead and start with what would the answer to this be. So if I multiply straight across the top, this is going to equal 8 times 7, which is 56, and 7 times 10, which is 70. So when I look at the greatest common factor, I am going to look at the numbers 56 and 70. I am going to think to myself, what goes into 56 and what goes into 70? Well, the answer there would be 7. So I'm going to divide both of these by 7. 56 divided by 7 made 8, and 70 divided by 7 makes 10. Now I'm going to look at what 8 and 10 have in common as far as factors go. They're both divisible by 2 because they're both even numbers. So I'm going to put a 2 here. 8 divided by 2 makes 4. 10 divided by 2 makes 5. 4 and 5 have no common factors. So I circle the side here, and my greatest common factor is equal to 2 times 7, which is 14. Now I need to simplify this because it's not in simplest form. So again, I'm going to have 56 over 70 divided by 14 over 14, which is then going to be equal to 4/5. Okay, that's one of the ways to do this. That should look familiar because you learned it in course 2. Sorry for the camera movement. I'm just getting situated so we can see. Here is example 2. This is decomposition. So here we go with that. If I have 8/7 times 7/10, in order to decompose this, I'm going to write it out as a product of primes. So a product of prime numbers. So in order to do that, I know 8 would be 2 times 2 times 2, and 7 is already prime, so I write times 7. And then on my denominator, again, 7 is already prime, so I have 7 times, and 10 is 2 times 5. Then I look for powers of 1. A power of 1 is when the numerator and the denominator are the same. So when simplified, it makes 1 whole. So if I have 2 over 2, that makes a whole, and 7 over 7, that makes a whole. I go ahead now and I look at what I have left. So on my numerator, I have 2 times 2. That makes 4, and my denominator, this is a 1, this is a 1, times 5 makes 5. So my answer here is 4/5. Then the last possible way you could do this is example 3. And if I have 8/7 times 7/10, you could cross simplify here. So cross simplify would be looking what factors these have in common. Personally, I tend to not use cross simplifying due to the fact that there's lots of slashies and dangly numbers, and I feel like kids lose what they're keeping track of. So this is something that you probably know. However, I'm not going to teach it if you don't know it. Okay, so that right there is multiplying fractions. So again, it is multiplying numerator times numerator, and it is multiplying denominator times denominator. Then we're going to have a quick review on dividing fractions. So this over here is dividing now. I'm just writing that so we can be aware that this is different. Sorry for the constant moving. Okay, here we go. So basically, to divide a fraction, there is two main ways that you probably know how to do it. So here is example 1, which is a -3 halves divided by a -10 sevenths. So the first way to do this would be to come up with a common denominator in order to divide the fractions. So the common denominator here would be 14. That's the least common multiple. I know that without doing the work. So I have here 7 sevenths times -3 halves divided by, and then this would be a -10 sevenths times 2 over 2. From here, I go ahead and multiply. So 7 times -3 makes a -21. 7 times 2 makes 14. Divided by, over here, I have a -20 over 14. So I hope someone taught you at some point in time that when looking at a problem like this, you can divide from reading from left to right. So -21 divided by 20 and 14 divided by 14. Well, 14 divided by 14 makes 1. So this simplifies down to 1. And therefore, I am left with a -21 over -20. This, however, is not simplified, and it is not simplified because if I have two negatives, that should be making a positive. So the real answer here that I would like to see would be 21 over 20. Okay, that is one of the ways that you might know how to do this. The other way would be the reciprocal method. My assumption would be that hopefully somebody has taught you why the reciprocal works. And just to touch on that very briefly, it's due to how to solve a complex fraction. So if I have something that looks like this, 2/5 divided by 5/8, I am going to write 2/5 times 8/5. This is taking here and using the reciprocal of 5/8. Then I just cross multiply. 2 times 8 is 16. 5 times 5 equals 25. Box my work. So there you have it. That is a quick overview of multiplying and dividing fractions. Again, this is familiar because this is course 1 and course 2 material. So there you have it.